Welcome back to Burn the Ship, the podcast we connect entrepreneurs and professionals to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown. Without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hey guys, I'm David Billings.
David, man, I appreciate you coming on and joining us, taking time out of your busy day. It's important part of our day is doing things like this and getting to meet people like you. What we want to know is kind of tell us a story. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Ezra. I really appreciate you guys bringing me on and giving me the opportunity to, kind of share my story and talk a little bit about entrepreneurship and how I ended up in the boat that I'm not in today.
Right, right, right.
So, no, my story really, kind of started at 12 years old. I was the oldest of three boys, and my father was in a car accident and passed away. And from that point on, I had to mature, and I had to mature early. My mom counted on me, and my responsibility was there to my family and to my brothers. And the oldest son, it was also, my responsibility to continue my father's legacy and everything else. And
Right.
so I think that's really where it started for me. I had a discussion with a good friend of mine now. He's a president at one of the companies I worked for, and I reported into him. And when he interviewed me, he said to me, he said, "David, you have a very interesting story." And he said, "Your story is that of not tradition." He
Right.
goes, "You've gone against the grain at every step of the way, and somehow that is what made you who you are." And so
Right.
it really started there, and so we talk about maturity and we talk about leadership and all those things. I think I was kind of forced into it at an early age. And so
Right.
later on in my life and in my career, we'll talk about it a little bit later. I was 31 years old the first time I sat at a boardroom table. And so you think about that, and you sit down and I look at everyone around me right to left, and these guys are in their late 50s, early 60s, super talented, a lot of experience, right? The difference is that the way that they got there was the traditional method. And
Right.
so I truly believe that, that happened, and it happened for a reason, at 12 years old. And so from there, really matured quick. Got into my grandfather was a horse trainer, and so I spent a little bit of time in and around horses there before I graduated high school, and so worked for horse trainers, and I roped growing up, and really still do enjoy horseback riding and roping in the equestrian industry. We'll talk about that. That's something that's coming in the
Oh yeah.
next 6 months. But yeah, man, graduated high school, joined the army, and took off. Spent about half the time inactive and half the time in reserves. I spent 8 years in the army in the service.
I
Um,
appreciate your service.
Thank you, man. Thank you. So it deployed into Iraq in 2004, beginning of 2004, and we stayed there till about the mid to end of 2005, and transitioned back, and got into industry, and I'd spent a few years in industry in my reserve years in the military, in oil and gas primarily. And really it was just, I was a warehouse clerk, was my first job in the industry. and
Hmm.
and back then, 20 21 years old, I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. And
Right.
I end up getting out of active duty, and going to college, and was in school there, and met my first wife, who became the mother of my first son, Peyton. And that happened there at school for my second semester. So it forced me to go grow up and be a man. And
Right.
I dropped out of school, and immediately called someone in my network and got a job, and went out there and started providing for what would be, a real young new family. And
Right.
so at 22 years old, Peyton was born, and I'm out running around drilling rigs and production platforms and all the things just to figure out a way to pay for baby formula and diapers.
Right. Right.
But he came along, and that, again, we talk about maturity, and we talk about the things that happen in our life that cause us to mature, and that was another one. At a young age, 22 years old, I'm working in oil and gas industry, and I'm spent time in the military already, and now I'm having a baby,
Right.
and it's really just trying to, at that point, was just trying to make sure that I put food on the table and paid the rent and put gas in the car. And
Right.
that was the biggest concern. Which
Absolutely. Yeah.
to be fair,
Me at 22 is totally different.
yeah, if you think about it, back then, I mean, if you put it in perspective today, you're going, well, good Lord, I had no issues, no challenges back then.
Right.
Today you got
Right.
multi-million dollar issues, and
Absolutely. No, yeah, because now, me at 22, I was still on a college baseball field.
yeah, that's what I mean. So I mean, so kind of got back into industry, as I said, in oil and gas when Peyton came around, and that's really where I started cutting my teeth. And I was like this in the military, and I'm definitely like this. I was like this in my career until I became a serial entrepreneur. But I'm a raise the hand kind of guy. If
Right.
if there's a project and they're looking for volunteers, I want to go. I want to put myself out there in any situation that I can. That's
Right.
gonna help me grow, help me mature, help me benefit. Whatever that looks like, I'm gonna do it. And so, well, throughout my career, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, and follow my career path, you'll see I've had some very interesting positions at a young age. I mean, I was a branch manager at 26, 27 years old, a general manager at 26, 27 years old of a project management company. And
Right.
so, you think about that and
You're
you're like,
not very old now either.
I'm not right, exactly. And you think, man, how did this guy go from, this to that? And really, it came every time there was a problem, child project, a problem child, client, a problem child, a construction issue. Every time there was an issue, I would always raise my hand. And so,
Right.
what ended up happening, Ezra, is I started getting a lot of experience with the worst of the worst situations. You follow me?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and so then bad situations were just normal to me. And I remember one of my managers. He was a super nice guy. Still have a lot of time for him. But he said to me one time in a review, an annual review, he said, "I think I got you figured out." I said, "Okay, well, help me understand."
Right.
And he said, "Well, you you are how did he say it exactly? He said you perform flawlessly in chaos." And he said, "David, I truly believe that that's your talent, that's your skill. All the things, the functional things, right? Engineering, project management, finance, accounting, business leadership. I have experience across all those functions. And we're
Right.
big businesses. I mean, $60 billion companies, right? So, I mean,
Right.
not like a small company. So, but for him to say that, and he said, I think that's your super strength. Your super strength is that you can operate in chaos and it's like normal to you.
Yeah. There's certain people that way, and that's awesome. Yeah.
So that's what ended up happening. I kind of found an opportunity where others shy away from. That's where I want to run to, you know? And so that's what ended up happening. And so I guess it was about 2 years after that review. I tendered, I was separated from the company I was at the time, and that's where I really stepped off full time, supporting myself with my ventures. Um,
Right.
yeah, so I mean we can get into the
I'm about to
individual
say,
companies
you
and
just segued me right into it. I didn't even have
yeah,
to do it too much. Yeah, because as you guys don't know it yet, but David's definitely a serial entrepreneur. He said it, but he is definitely been around and built. It seems like he's built some businesses that are pretty awesome. So I've gotten to see a little overview of kind of what he sent me, but I'm gonna kind of tell you guys and let him tell you the story. But no, he's got a ranch, Billings Ranch, I believe, Coastal Plains. I David helped me out here.
Coastal Plains Meat Company. Yeah.
Coastal Plains Meat Company and Billings Ranch. I would assume that those kind of are an ecosystem that work together.
It's a vertical integration. Of course, one is owned privately and individually by me, being the ranch,
Hmm.
and the other is a partnership.
That's awesome. And he's, I guess he would be the president of Oscar Mike, or CEO, COO,
So I'm the
CFO, CEO.
Yep. So I'm the managing partner of Oscar Mike Holdings, which is a business consulting firm.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then he's got a couple other endeavors, but I'm gonna let David kind of go in before we start talking about the last three. We're gonna talk about the first three.
Yeah, sure, man. Absolutely. Throw it at me.
Yeah, man. So really, I'm super interested because my family, we have 1,100 acres, in Northport, Alabama.
Nice.
So a little bit down 20 from where you're at.
Yep.
um, so really, I'm very interested in kind of the cattle and what you guys kind of do at the ranch and then the meat industry. So kind of tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First I'll start with the ranch. As I said, my grandfather was a horse trainer, and so I worked for horse trainers growing up as a kid. And obviously, well, we had a small. I grew up on a small commercial operation.
Hmm.
Nothing crazy. No registered seed stock. Nothing like that. Very low cost. Run of the mill type situation.
Right,
Um, so that really kind of gave me that passion for the livestock industry, gave me that passion for beef cattle, for the equestrian industry. And as I kind of created a history, right, a
right.
legacy, if you will, sorry, for myself, and was able to begin reinvesting back into myself.
Hmm.
First opportunity I had, I purchased a piece of land, and my sons and I, at the time, this was oh, 5, 6 years ago, my sons and I started working on this piece of land that we acquired,
Hmm.
and and they were old enough to appreciate what we were doing, and
Right,
I think that was really cool to see them. I think they were around 15 and 17 at this time, and so yeah, so we spent time cleaning up the land, and I worked with the FSA and I worked with the NRCS, and we really tried to figure out what we're going to do with the land and how we're going to make our grass production better, and focused on topsoil enhancement, and really brought scientists out to this place. I mean, when I do something,
right.
I like to do all the research. I like to be, I say this all the time, and I like to be the most prepared guy in the room. And so,
Be the guru.
yeah, I like to be the most prepared guy. I may not be the guy that talks in the meeting, but if something
Right,
comes up and I need to know, I mean, if I need to respond, I got it, So
right,
so then the ranch became more like a land development project. Okay. And so everybody will tell you, if you're in the cattle business, and which I am, and if you're in the cattle business, you got to be a grass farmer first. And so
right.
that's what I became. I mean, I went to LSU. I'm a graduate from Northwestern State with a business with a degree in management and a minor in psychology and a master's degree in business and finance from LSU. Well, I also took the Master Cattleman program at LSU, and that particular program was an entire semester, right, worth of schoolwork, but that gave me the knowledge that I have today, that I've now built on with the experience. And so
Right.
I knew how to, work on my forage, and I knew how to clean up my pastures, and I knew, that type of thing. And so then we ran down the path of, all right, ranch is set up, cross fenced, right? I mean, we plumbed the whole thing. I mean, we really went all out, and
Heck yeah.
and did it right, and so then it's we started talking about cattle, and my business partner in the meat company, he's a fifth generation, cattleman, and his family have grew up and raised Herefords for a long time. And
Hmm.
so he and his family and I and my family are very close, and it just made sense to
Absolutely.
team up with them and bring some of their good genetics to Texas. Their ranches in Louisiana. I live in Texas, and so I ended up bringing some of their really good Hereford genetics to Texas, and along the way made some good deals with some other very good Hereford breeders across the nation in Kansas and Oklahoma. and Nebraska, and brought those cattle back to Texas. And I worked with an Akaushi breeder, Wagyu breeder in Texas, and bought a bull, a really nice registered bull from them. And yeah, so we started AI into some of the best Akaushi,
That's awesome.
genetics in the market, and we covered with a really good bull that young good bull, and started having calves, and that we grew the herd there on the ranch to, oh man, it was about 180 head at one time, and all we had was 120 acres, but we were pushing over 1 cow per acre. That was our grass production. I mean, we were
That's awesome.
we were pumping, and it was really doing well. And so since then we've made some other partnerships in Missouri and some other places that we're moving cattle around off the ranch. And so it allows us to continue to grow there locally, but also keep control of our own herd through retained ownership. And so that the ranch is doing really well. My youngest son, actually, he took into it hard, man. He was going to school at A&M and decided that, Dad, I want to be a horse trainer. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, the first thought that crossed my mind is, okay, well, I'm about to be in the horse business. So what does that look like? So I've already, started putting business plans together and working out financial models and looking at who's doing what, and, you know,
Right.
who's who in the zoo, and all that kind of thing. And so my son will end up carrying on that legacy in the ranching,
Absolutely.
ranching side of our business and our enterprise. And so I'm really proud of that and really happy for that. Yeah, and then my oldest son, he wants to be a big part of it, and so, but he wants to be more on the business side. So um,
Right.
I've had a lot of conversations with him, but ultimately he's in the Army as well now. He gets out next year, and he's working on his bachelor's degree in business and finance, and he will ultimately take over some of my responsibilities. and
That's
and the,
awesome.
the goal there as a father, as a 45-year-old 44-year-old father, is to turn over companies to your children and help
Right.
them, get into entrepreneurship instead of turning into another 9 to 5.
Right. No,
So
absolutely. Definitely.
that was kind of the ranch, man. Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's awesome because what you guys have done is that's freaking cool, man. Especially if, from turning it into something, and people don't understand what it takes to start growing, and to start having to even have cattle out there. It's one thing, but to have cattle that you can raise and actually produce beef and produce, at that level, it's a whole different ball game. You know,
it
you
is.
probably got plumbing lines ran from
Oh,
A to Z out there.
it's
Yeah.
miles. I mean, just my driveway up to the ranch house is a mile long, and I got pastures all around that place. You can imagine, so it's yeah, you're right. And so making sure that we had the right setup on the property was important so that we could rotate. We rotate every week. We run our cows, we run our horses behind our cows. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why we do a lot of the things that we do, but
Right.
it ensures that, our grass production is where it is, our worms are down, our weeds are down, right? I mean, so select forage we want to be there is up. I mean, all those things, protein value content's up, nitrogen levels are up. So those are the things that we focus on to make sure that facility can continue to produce that type of forage for us to run that number of head of cattle line. That's important.
Right. Absolutely.
Because land is expensive, and everybody
Oh
knows that.
yeah.
And as a
It
cattleman,
ain't getting any cheaper.
that's it. And as a cattleman, the most important thing for us is to how can we increase production on the land that we have? And that's what we've been focusing on the last 5 years.
Well, we need to get connected. I have 1,100 acres of farmland that could be used, and
Yes, sir.
right off I-20. No, definitely
Yeah.
something that could be. We can definitely talk about that later.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
grandparents do enough of it. Not with the cattle. They just do goats and
Yeah.
horses.
Yeah.
But no, and then kind of tell us a little bit about your other endeavors, because
Yeah.
we
So
just kind of
oh,
hear because all of
that
them are different. But I want to hear about another one or two of them, and then we'll kind of talk about what it's been like. The trials going through that, what you've done really well, what you haven't done so well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's definitely a long list of what I haven't done well. Um, and I'll tell you that right now. But so that kind of brings us to Coastal Plains Meat Company. My partner Chip Perrin, if you guys follow us on Facebook or LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of our media and marketing content. We just released a new commercial behind the brand. So it's very interesting, about a minute long. I would ask everyone to go take a look at it and give us a follow. But ultimately, Coastal Plains was a company we started 4 years ago, out of a passion that both he and I have for the beef cattle industry. And the passion that we had is not the is it led us to an opportunity, and the opportunity was we saw through our research. We decided one day, hey, this is what we want to do, and so we took off and researched it for about 18 months before we actually pulled the trigger
Mm-hmm.
and started the company. But what we found is there was a giant bottleneck in processing capacity across the United States, but even more so in certain regions of the US. And so
Right.
we started focusing on, okay, these are those regions that lack processing capacity. We
Mm-hmm.
know that there needs to be an increase of capacity based on the cattle on feed reports, based on number of cattle and herd reports, right? All that type of stuff. But more
Right.
but more importantly was talking to the producers on the grounds. Yeah, AMS, USDA AMS services are great. They have a lot of information, but it's skewed data in my mind. I want to go directly to the farmer's mouth and I want to hear
Mm-hmm.
what they have to say. And so by doing that, we decided, hey, this is the strategy, and the strategy was owning shackle space,
Mm-hmm.
owning owning processing capacity. And so we took off down that path of acquiring, our first plant, and we were going to go build one. We traveled to Chicago and met with an EPC firm, and it was going to cost us, 30-40 million dollars to build this new plant. And we were happy to do it. We had raised capital and the whole bit, but
Right.
the first thing we wanted to do was what? Build a brand, get in the market,
Right.
sell a product to the consumer, work with a producer, see if this thing's gonna
Right.
actually work. So we decided to kind of shelve our large construction project and jump into a smaller facility. And that's what we did. We bought a plant, we turned it around, we invested, quite a few millions of dollars into that plant and got it to where it is today. And now it's got all brand new technology, all brand new equipment, and trained staff, and a HACCP plan that's, up to par. And it was a state inspected facility. We've now revamped the entire facility, and it is now a federally inspected facility. So it's USDA. And so then that kind of opened the doors for us to go to market outside of state lines. And that's what
That's awesome.
and so Coastal Plains Meat Company was built primarily to remove the bottleneck for the producers to get their beef to market. And so
Right.
that is our core, the vision of my partner and I, and why we started that company.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and and how we do that is exactly what we're doing today. We're removing the barriers to entry for these producers, whether they sell it under their own brand, ABC Beef, or we buy their cattle and we sell it under our brand, Coastal Plains Meat Company. So that's really where we bring value, is we're another buyer in the seats. We're right here. We own shackle space, so that means we have the processing capacity, and
Mm-hmm.
and and we're able to bring that product to market. And we've done a really good job. We've grown that company in the last 4 years substantially. When we bought it, it was, you know, I won't get into the exact financials, but it was hovering around six figures, close to a seven-figure company, nothing really major. And I'm happy to announce that, we're in the eight figures and getting close to nine. And
That's
so
awesome.
in 4 years, I'm really proud of the work that we've done there at that business, and we've expanded. We're now exporting beef in Europe. We're exporting beef into Latin America. We have joint partnerships. We co-brand. We have joint ventures on trademarks. I mean, we've
That's
really
awesome.
grown just only because of our experience in our career. I mean, I've spent
Right.
years in mergers and acquisitions and business development and corporate development and strategy and execution and all these things. Well, now I'm applying it to my own companies. And so,
Right. And that
yeah,
that is why you're the perfect example of what burning the ship is. You know what I mean? That what the podcast
that's
is you
right.
you took everything you knew and burnt the ship and went on to and do it on your own, which is freaking awesome. And then you guys are really doing it over there, just completely taking over niches in your vertical, which is cool. It's super
Uh,
cool.
It is, man. I mean, I was somebody told me something in one of our investors, and I thought it was interesting. And what he said was, he said, David, you're the kind of guy that you just need to trust in yourself, because and a mentor told me this, and he said, my mentor said to me, David, you need to invest in yourself, not in the market. And I didn't really understand all these things. And so ultimately, what he meant and what these guys meant is I had something, I had some pizzazz, I had something, right,
Something, some
about
type of
me,
it factor.
right? Call it what you want to, but something there that these guys saw. And by the way, these guys are multimillionaires, good friends of mine. That these guys saw, and they said, you need to go do this. And that's where things changed for me. You know, my first entrepreneurial venture was in 2007, and I came in a joint partnership with some guys out of London in an industrial manufacturing business. I mean, I was 27, 26 years old, 27 years old, right after the
Yeah.
GM position. So I quit that awesome job, making great money, GM for this engineering and project management company to go throw it all away on this entrepreneur trail. Well, I'll tell you what, it was awesome. I learned some really hard lessons in life and really hard
Right.
lessons in business, but it paved the way for me to do what I'm doing today.
Yeah, and that is super awesome. But what would you say your favorite endeavor's been that you've got to hop into? What's been your favorite in your in your network?
We haven't talked about South Texas Resources, but that company, maybe I'll talk about that one real quick. But that's probably one of my favorites. But my favorite is probably going to be business consulting and M&A advisory. Um, that is probably where I shine. And I don't mean, look, I've built companies. I've done it for corporations. I've done it for, myself, investors.
Right.
I'm not one of these fly by night. I don't even have a YouTube page. I don't even know what the hell that is, right?
Right.
But I will tell you this. I My team and I have a ton of experience in building companies and exiting companies. And so for me to be able to help an entrepreneur sell their business,
Right.
exit, help them develop an exit strategy so that they
Right.
can cash out and maybe roll into a new investment somewhere else. That's
Right.
important because a lot of these guys don't know, a lot of these guys and girls don't know how to do that. And they
Million percent.
trapped. They feel trapped in their business and they feel trapped with what they've built, but they're ready to move on to the next thing because, hey, listen, Coastal Plains Meat Company is a great company, but am I going to have it when I'm 60? Probably not. Probably
Right.
our everything changes, and we have to be adaptable. And so I think
And
my favorite company is going to be Oscar Mike and partners and Pronova partners. Those two companies are the ones that I feel like I get to help, right?
right.
The ones are businesses. I'm in the grind. I'm working with customers and trying to close sales and blah blah blah. Um, when I get to actually come help another entrepreneur solve a problem and make a bunch of money, and
Mm-hmm.
and by the way, like on our consulting firm, we're tax advisory too. So like we can help him save the money that he earns when he sells and exits. That's
Right.
really where I find a lot of passion, man. I get excited about that, and I love, love, love helping. So Pronova Partners is an amazing business advisory an M&A advisory firm. That firm I'm a principal in. Um, they specialize in selling your company. So we
Mm-hmm.
have access to over 10,000 investors across multiple different industry segments, certified valuation firm, like the whole bit.
That's
And
awesome.
so really that's where I get jacked is helping people exit those businesses and man, go retire and spend time with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's freaking awesome because that's one of those things because you'll find a ton of people. I feel like nowadays I see it a ton in my network, going out networking and stuff. People wanting to be business coaches, people wanting to do this and that. Like, what have you built to have that? What
Yeah.
have you built to want that platform? Like, what are
Yeah.
you going to help me with if you make the same amount of money I
Yeah.
did or do 5 years ago or now? You know,
Yeah.
what are you going to help me with? You know, because I want to see what your life is, how you've changed your life for that in that same sense. So that's one of those things that people probably listen to everything you got to say.
Well, I mean, Ezra, I got to tell you, man, I mean, I come from a place of experience. I
Right.
mean, somebody wants to talk about where have you done it, I can get 10 fingers. I can list you a bunch of.
Right,
And,
absolutely.
and look, I've got a bunch of guys that I can put you on the phone with that I don't even have to be in the room. I'm,
Right,
I've got a good reputation in the industry and in my network and across the businesses that I have. And, one of the things that I believe I got here and the reason why I got here is because I started from the bottom and I worked
right.
every position in these companies to get to where I'm at. But I also treated everybody, everybody like they were equal to me. I don't care if I was talking to the janitor or the CEO, because remember, my first job in the industry was a warehouse clerk, and my job was sweeping the floor. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I was the best damn floor sweeper that company had ever fucking had.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I looked at everybody like you put your pants on just like me, brother.
Mm-hmm.
And I treated everyone with respect, and they did the same. And so I feel like I've always been that way, and that's kind of the reputation that I have about me. And people do
Right,
call and got a ton of clients. Man, my calendar is so freaking full with guys that want to sell their businesses or guys that need help with a problem, or we even help raise capital for people. So like there's a
right.
bunch of that stuff there. But yeah.
Absolutely, man. What you're doing is freaking awesome. So, what would you say has been the hardest thing about all of it? What was the hardest thing about getting into entrepreneurship? Because you still face it now because you're still
Yeah.
helping and still
Yeah.
helping people develop things. But what was that hardest thing for you to overcome that where you still kind of forging now?
Yeah, I will tell you, and I still have problems with it because as you grow, capital becomes the most important. And so
Absolutely.
imagine you take a business from $1 million a year to $50 million a year in 4 years, right? You could break that business, I mean, completely if you don't have access to capital to support that growth. And so
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, I would say, and if I got a little bit more granular on capital, I would say it's probably more about cash flow.
Okay.
Cash flow is very important, and it's
Big time.
unfortunate, but a lot of business owners or even entrepreneurs that are wanting to start their company, and get into entrepreneurship, they don't really understand cash flow, and so earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, EBITDA stuff, net earnings, net profit. Yeah, fine, right? That doesn't matter when you have $100,000 bill that's due tomorrow and you don't have that money in your account, but it's sitting in your AR. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you can go finance your AR. You can do that, sure, but you're giving
Right.
up points. And so now I'm
Right.
giving up my own money because I didn't structure my terms well enough so that my cash conversion cycle isn't where it needs to be to
Right.
support the business. And so ultimately, cash is king, and we've heard it from every guy who's made it. Cash is king, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
and they don't mean a Benjamin, right? What they mean is cash flow.
Right.
I think that's the biggest challenge
Like,
that.
hey, my business did $1 million in revenue this year, and yeah, but how much was profit that you could keep in your bank account to have for that bad time? And I've heard that a good bit too, and that's one of those things that the more I hear it, I'm young. I'm eventually gonna start my own business. I don't know what exactly I want to get into yet, but I just got to find something that's a need to help people. Find a problem that needs to be solved, and then that's
That's it. That's it. I focus primarily in my businesses and my portfolio, the entities that I own are partnered in. These are primarily focused in the energy and agriculture space. And
right.
so you've at least had your finger on the pulse of the world, and you understand that the two most important things that are going on right now is we have a growing population that needs to be fed, and
Oh
so
yeah.
agriculture is very important. And then we also have an energy transition situation that's occurring. Now
Yeah.
it's very elastic, right? That
Right.
situation. And so I believe that energy investments are very important for us, whether it's, bridging the gap from a traditional, source of energy to a new source of energy, but it can't be jumping, shutting down one and moving to another. I believe there needs to be a bridge to get from point A to point C. And
Right.
that's where we like to spend a lot of our attention and focus personally with my own portfolio. But in terms of like us representing, clients and selling businesses, it's across any industry, any segment. So yeah.
Right. Absolutely. However you can help, you're gonna help them.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, HVAC's big, plumbing's pretty big. I had a software company this week. So I mean, there's just quite a bit of things that happen. And we're here in Houston, Texas. So we have a Houston office here, and me and another co-managing partner run the practice. So
That's awesome. Yeah, no,
yeah,
but you guys over in Houston, so you guys are a melting pot like we are over here in Atlanta. So
man, you ain't kidding.
you
It's
got
hot
everything
over
going on over
here.
there. Man, yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm not that on how hot it is over there though. Yeah, we
Yeah.
got a nice. I think it's about 72 degrees outside right now. It's perfect.
Oh no, today, I mean, yeah, it's finally fall. I think if you live in Texas, fall is a your number one a time of the year, man.
Yeah,
We get to break out our felt hats, and we got a little cool breeze, and it's not 112 degrees anymore, sweating our butt off. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was about to say because the jeans and boots popped out about halfway through last week. I was like, well, it's about time I can start wearing jeans again. So
yeah,
that's where I'm at.
yeah. No, man, we've done a lot, over the years. My partners and I, me individually. Now I'm bringing my kids into the fold. I think it's important, just to kind of close out here. I know we're running close on time, but
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's important, and the my message to entrepreneurs out there that that want to do this, or maybe young business people who want to get out of the grind of 8 to 5, or the demand, or whatever that looks like for you.
Right.
I would say a few things to you. I would say, one, make sure that it's something that you're truly passionate about. um, Gain insights from others, so don't just think what you think is the right
Right.
thing.
If it
There's
can't be
all,
your way, the highway, you ain't gonna make it far.
yeah, gain insight from others. I love consultants. These guys are subject matter experts. They are very inexpensive. You can hire one for our conversation, pay them $100 or $1,000, whatever it is. It's cheap based on you're about to jump into it with your life savings, right? So
Right.
yeah, so it's like make sure that you get some outside perspective. I think that's very important. And then when you're looking at your business plan and your financials, don't get overexcited. Don't get into what we call entrepreneurial math, right? You need to wait. And when I mean wait, you need to scale
Hmm.
your growth, your profit, right. It needs to be conservative. And
Right.
so as you build out your financial model to match your business plan, and you get to the end and you're like, boom, this is how it's going to be. I'm going to do this much money, man. Honestly, you need to go in there and you need to start increasing your cost, decreasing
Hmm.
your sales prices, and you need to get yourself into a situation where if this happens, right, I'm okay. And
Right.
that's one of the things that we do with the company when we're putting together a deal, for a startup, is
Right.
we look at four different business cases. And so we have a high case, we have a management case, we have a base case, and then a low
Right.
case, right? So
Right.
what that does is it helps us go through those cases to understand, is this a good opportunity? Should you invest your time and money here, or is it not? And so the thing about it is, guys, is entrepreneurship. It's fun. I love it. Um, it's easy if you're in the right path, if you're on the right path, if you're aligned with where you're supposed to be, with what you're supposed to be doing. It's actually not that difficult. But there's a lot of things that if you don't know, you need to have people out there that's going to help you. That's kind of what I'm here to do. And as I turn off and exit over the next couple of years, um, that's going to be my mission. My mission in life is going to be supporting entrepreneurs,
Right.
growing their businesses, helping them exit. And I think that's the legacy I want to leave.
That's awesome, man. Now that's definitely something that I could get behind and I can believe in. That's somebody I'd want in my network. You
I
guys,
appreciate
David
it.
is amazing. You guys need to check him out. His socials will be down below. The more you want to hear about him, we'll tag it. We'll tag all of his stuff he's given to us. And then David, tell them where to find you if they can't go and click on the link themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of emails. You can find me on Facebook, David Billings there. I got an orange jacket and a cowboy hat, and I'm with my wife in my profile picture. You'll find me at Billings MBA. You'll also find me on Instagram as 3B Billings underscore D. And then my email, if you guys want to reach out to me for any kind of business consulting or advisory services, or if you need me to help you sell your company, is David at pronovapartners.com or David at oscarmike.global. Again, really appreciate you, Ezra. Thanks for having the time, putting me on the show. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to reconnecting and helping you guys out if I can on the cattle side,
Absolutely.
or helping out some of your viewers. So thanks again.
Absolutely, David. Appreciate you very much.